Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
Hello, and you are very welcome to this week's episode of Let's Go Green here on Midlands 103. I hope you are safe and well as you tune into the show this week. We've got a fantastic show lined up for you. We're going to be talking about how to make the most out of your household rubbish, a cocktail club that is taking place in County Laois tomorrow, all around the climate conversation. But as always, if you'd like to get in contact with us to suggest an item on the show, please do so. You can email me directly, hello@thecommunicationscoach.ie, or go to midlands103.com and hit the contact us button there. As I said, I hope you're having a great week and you are very welcome to the programme. Well, first things first, we are joined by a man who goes under the handle Dr. Compost, Craig Benton. Craig, you are very welcome to the programme.
Well, thanks for having me today.
Craig,
I always love talking trash, so here we go.
Craig, household rubbish, it can be at times a little bit of a minefield. None of us wants to talk about it, but we all create it, and we're not necessarily doing as good a job as we could be when it comes to composting and recycling. It's an area that you're particularly interested in. What brought you to this, I suppose, part of the world, I'll call it?
Actually, a job. I came here to start the composting industry back in 2002, 2003. We set up the first brown bin program in Ballinsloe, County Galway, and we actually proved that the Irish would separate their biodegradable organic waste, and that we could turn it into something useful for people's gardens and what have you.
Now, I know, and even within my own family, there are people that are still reticent about having a brown bin. They, for whatever reason, they're afraid that it will, attract rodents to their houses. And I think that's the big fear that people have around it. So talk to me about a compost bin. Like, it's the same as, it's a brown bin, a wheelie bin, just like any other bin. But what should we be putting into it? That's so that we don't have those rodent issues that people are afraid of.
Well, first of all, the wheelie bins have a lid on them, and the rats cannot climb up the bins, or even if they got on top of the bins, they wouldn't be able to lift the cover and get in. So I don't think that's an issue whatsoever for brown bins. What you can put in your brown bin is any food item that comes either from plants or animals, all right? And that's easy. Any food waste that can go in the bin. But what people sometimes don't understand is that things that may not go in the recycle bin can go into the brown bin. For example, soiled pizza boxes. So pizza boxes with cheese and oil and sauce on it, which can't be recycled, can go into the brown bin because the cardboard's made from trees. And anything that was once living or comes from a living organism can go in the brown bin. Things like paper towels, paper napkins, any kind of tissue paper. These should not go in the recycle bin, but they can be placed into the brown bin.
Okay, so anything that has come in contact with food in that way, that can go into the compost bin. Because I think that's a fair point. Like, we might, now I know we're supposed to be cutting down on kitchen towels and paper towels. But if you are using them to, I don't know, little Johnny has knocked over the tomato ketchup or whatever, it's got food on it so it can go in. Is it okay, like say if you're using it to clean with and it's maybe got like some kind of detergent on it, is that still okay?
A little detergent's not going to kill anything, but if you're wiping up motor oil or oil paints or something that is more hazardous or toxic, no, you don't want to put it into your brown bin.
Okay. So then talk to me about, say, meat or fish. Are they allowed in the compost bin, or is it only if they're cooked? What's the situation there? Because I think there's a little bit of confusion.
There is a lot of confusion. So the brown bin, which gets collected, will take any food waste, whether it's meat, fish, cheese, bones, yogurt, any kind of animal product, any kind of vegetable products and fruit peelings, any kind of starchy biscuits, cereals, pasta, rice, you name it. So any food, any kind of food can go into the brown bin for collection. And these go to a compost facility, and they are required to place it in vessel, which means it's all enclosed and there's no odors or rats or other pests, flies, you name it. It's all enclosed, and then the compost cooks and gets up to temperatures of 60 to 70 degrees, which kills pathogens and any of the bad things that could be in there. And then once it's been in the vessel system for 2, 4, 6 weeks, and it comes out and it's cured and settles down and screened and then used as a horticultural product or put back on our agricultural land.
Okay, fantastic. And in relation to, say, the paper products that go in, one of the things that I'd heard of, because I know, okay, the bin company that I am signed up to, every couple of weeks I get some biodegradable bags for the compost bin. They're slightly too small for the bin and a little bit awkward to use. And someone suggested that I use my leftover newspapers. They're okay? I can see you're nodding. Fantastic. So, but I just wanted to ask you about those biodegradable bags, because I know, like, I even see them now, like, I have a dog and I have to clean up after her, and I can get regular poop collection bags or I can get biodegradable ones. Things like that have those labels on them, like, are they really as good as they claim to be? Or, like, it's still a plastic bag at the end of the day?
No. And there is a difference between compostable bags and biodegradable bags. Compostable bags will totally break down, and they're made out of such things like cornstarch. So they're natural. They may not be as strong as a plastic bag, but they will do the trick, and they will break down in the composting process. Biodegradable only means that it'll break down. And sometimes there are products that are made out of plastic with a little bit of sort of plant polymers, and they'll break down, but you still might be left with plastic dust. So biodegradable, like the tea bags. This is a good one here. So
okay.
Your Lions or your Berries tea bags they say they're biodegradable. Yeah, they may break down a little bit, but they do contain plastic. So if you really want to go organic, then you get a sort of a tea bag that has a staple on it, because then you know it's made of paper, and that is fully compostable.
Interesting. Okay. Or, of course, you could do loose leaf tea, but I'm sure the tea drinkers might tell me they don't have enough time in the day for that, and I understand that too. Recycling, though, I think there is an issue in Ireland about how well we are recycling, and what can and can't quint recycling. And I know in recent years as well, the rules have changed. So in general terms, in our bins, what can we go into? Like in my house, it's a green bin. In my mum's house, it's a blue bin. Whatever colour it is, what can go into the recycling bin?
Okay. So any plastic packaging that's clean, all right? People call them soft plastics or film plastics or hard plastics, which are trays and bottles and containers. Any kind of packaging can go in except for styrofoam. Styrofoam is the only plastic packaging that goes into the black bin. All right. Then as far as paper goes, we can put all kinds of paper as long as it's clean. You know, cardboard, paperboard, office paper, newspaper, magazines, you name it. And they can all go in as long as they're not contaminated with food or grease or oil, right? And then the metals that you can put in are aluminum cans, tin cans or food cans, which are steel cans coated with tin. They can go in. And you can put in foil trays or foil wrapper or tin foil as long as it's clean. If it's clean, it can go in. If it's dirty and contaminated with food, it has to go into the black rubbish bin.
I had it in my head that tin foil was not allowed in the recycling bin. Right. Okay. I've learned something. Great. Yeah. Fantastic.
The last thing that can go in are these Tetra Pak, these juice boxes and milk. So those, again, all these things need to be rinsed and shaken dry. So it defeats the purpose if we're going to use hot water, soap and scrubber, and then dry it out with a paper towel. No, I'm not talking about that. Give it a little rinse with cold water, and then just shake the water out of it. And that's good enough. All right. But we cannot be putting sort of, a yogurt pot that has half of it's full with yogurt. That just contaminates the whole lot. And remember, glass does not go into your recycling wheelie bin at home. It needs to go to the glass bottle bank at your supermarket or your local shop or around or your civic amenity site. So that's where that stuff can go.
Why is it that glass needs to be separated out? Because I suppose there would be many listening to this that would think, well, it would be more convenient if I could put an empty jar of mayonnaise that I've cleaned out into the recycling bin.
The problem is that when it's collected, it goes into a compactor, and the compactor then can break the glass, and then the glass gets stuck in things like cardboard, and so that contaminates the paper stream. And then once it's broken up into small pieces, it's very hard to sort because all this material that comes from the mixed recyclables in your recycling bin goes to a processing plant where they separate out these things by materials. So cardboard separated, mixed paper separated, different grades of plastic are separated. The aluminum cans and the food cans, the tin cans are also separated. So a lot of this is done manually, but there are systems that are fully automated and using jets of air or magnets, eddy currents for aluminum. So it's gotten to be a little more sophisticated now. But the problem we have in Ireland is that 25 to 30% of our green recycling bins are contaminated. And there's two problems. One is lack of awareness about what really goes in and what doesn't. And the other thing is lack of enforcement. I know where I come from. Yes, I'm not from around here. I did live in Seattle for many years, which that city led the charge in America with recycling in the late 80s and early 90s. But people got sort of a little warning first, and then they got a ticket. Now they're not allowed to put food waste in their rubbish bin. They have to put it in their compost bin. And they're not allowed to have recyclables in your rubbish bin. So there's the people who pick up the waste. They take pictures and they can issue fines. There's like a parking ticket. So here, because the green recycling bin is a lot less expensive than rubbish bins, people think they can get away with putting nappies or wipes or food contaminated cardboard and paper and just all kinds of vacuum cleaner bags and just all kinds of stuff. It's pretty nasty.
It is. And I think sometimes people forget, that actually that my household recycling bin goes into the truck with everybody else's. So if my recycling bin is contaminated by a nappy or some kind of food waste, that it's contaminating an entire truck's worth of recycling materials.
Yes, but remember that this stuff goes to a sorting plant, and these contaminants have to be sorted out. But you're right in that if you have something that's, you have a half bottle of liquid, or you have a lot of tomato sauce or whatever, it's getting all over that other stuff and it's making it dirty. So, and therefore then the materials have less value. It's less marketable. And what we want to try to do is keep it clean so that we can maximize the revenue from the sale of these things, so that we can keep our rates down, keep the charges down for our recycling bin.
On that, because I know that some companies have started, now with AI systems, they can have cameras installed at the back of the trucks and they can photograph the rubbish or the recycling as it goes in. Do we now need to be, and I grew up in a house with someone who was very concerned around security and fraud, so we always shredded any paper with our names and addresses on it before we dealt with. Do we need to become a little bit more security conscious as well as part of all of this, that we're not just putting in, I don't know, I know not many of us get posts, but usually it's a bill, but anything with our names and addresses on it as well?
I'm not too worried about it, but I don't put my bank statements and credit card statements in the recycling bin. But look, this stuff is just going and it's getting pulped up and recycled. I don't think there's many people that are scamming your information out of your waste, but I don't know. So I couldn't tell you.
Fair enough. So we've discussed the compost bin. We've discussed the recycling bin. Based on all of that, what's left to go into the black bin, the regular rubbish bin?
Oh, there's plenty of stuff. I mean, wood ash, cat litter, nappies, wipes. Wipes are a nightmare. It's an American invention. And you don't even know what you're putting on your face. What's wrong with a washcloth with a little soap?
I know. I think they're disgusting as well. Yeah. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. I mean, there's also a lot of material, a lot of things that are mixed, like laminated paper. There's a whole list of things that goes into the rubbish bin. So there's plenty left over. But I think the most important thing that people need to think about is prevent the waste.
Yeah.
So you don't have to pay for it. So watch what you buy. Try to find, avoid the disposable single-use items, especially plastics. They're a nightmare. And try to buy things, loose instead of in packages. Buy things in bulk. It reduces packaging. There are a lot of ways that you can actually reduce waste. I mean, paper towels, another nightmare, because we're cutting down the rainforest in, say, the Amazon to grow eucalyptus, which doesn't belong there. It comes from Australia. And basically, then we're cutting the trees down to create paper products like toilet paper and paper towels that we use once and throw away, which causes problems in either the incinerator or the landfill because they're not recyclable. So that people can say, well, look, I'm going to get off paper towels and I'm going to use a sponge and a wash rag, right? There's just all kinds of possibilities to sort of, I've sworn off coffee cups. I go around and pick up litter when I walk because I figure, well, when I'm walking, I might as well pick up the litter, But cigarette butts and coffee cups are some of the things I pick up the most. Disposable vapes.
Vapes, yeah.
Those are, I don't get it. Instead of putting a charge on aluminum cans and plastic bottles, there should be a deposit on vapes. These things have batteries in them. They're toxic. Not only, you're smoking and you don't even know what you're breathing in, but you've got this little disposable vape that has a battery in it. And the battery is not good for the environment. And when it's burned, it's putting out all these heavy metals. It just doesn't make any sense, really.
I saw one recent study as well that has found that when someone is vaping, that there's plastic from the device leaching into your lungs as well, just to make matters even worse. Well, Craig Benton, I'm delighted that we had the opportunity to speak with you. Thank you very much for joining us on Let's Go Green. How do listeners find out more about the work that you do, Craig? Is there a good spot to go and find you on?
Well, I work with a group called compostingireland.ie. And so we have booklets and fact sheets and posters and all that about how to compost at home, which is a subject we can talk about on another day. It's very easy. We're getting into leaf mold season now, which we're setting up cages to take leaves to turn into a lovely weed-free compost. It's very easy. Got about 1,000 cages around here in the Dublin area. And we're just as in Sligo last weekend, we're going to be in Kilkenny, Monaghan. So it's starting to spread around the country. But that's the area that I work in. And that is where people can find out more about composting, because the soil is my passion, and composting is a way to sort of make that all much better for growing your garden and for our agricultural sector.
And thanks to Laois County Council for suggesting you as a guest this evening. I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation with you, Craig. Thank you so much for joining us on Let's Go Green. We will be back after the break with another Laois item. As it happens, we'll be finding out about a climate cocktail club taking place this week. Stay tuned.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
You're listening to Let's Go Green here on Midlands 103, and we are joined now by Caroline O'Doherty, the Climate and Science Correspondent for the Irish Times. Caroline, you are very welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
Caroline, what has been happening in Cork in relation to what's been referred to as a fish kill? Take us back to what exactly happened.
In mid-August, around August 12th, it became kind of public news that there'd been a fairly substantial fish kill on what's called the Munster Blackwater, because there is another Blackwater river in the country. And this is the river that goes through mainly Cork, also Waterford. And over the few days, the week that followed that, the numbers of fish killed just kept getting higher and higher. And these are, not to say not just any fish, but there is a certain value attached to salmon and trout, and most of these were salmon and trout. So in all, they reckon about 42,000 fish, most of them salmon and trout. Could be more. It's always impossible to get an accurate account on these, were killed. And there was a fairly speedy reaction once that news got out on August 12th. See the Environmental Protection Agency, you have the Marine Institute, you have Inland Fisheries Ireland, National Parks and Wildlife Service, various government departments, Uisce Éireann, the HSE, the Health Service Executive, in case it was a public health risk, all kind of pulling together to try and find out what has happened.
And, members of the community in the area have been very vocal around this, and they raised their concerns very quickly, because this could have gone unnoticed. But the fact that there was a local community that were interested in the Blackwater there, they were very much on the ball with it.
They were on the ball. They started spotting these dead fish on around the 9th of August. The difficulty is, and it's something that's been brought up since this happened, is that there isn't sort of one catch-all 24-hour number that you can ring and get a rapid reaction force from all those agencies coming together. So to just get on site, start taking fish, start taking water samples, start looking at potential pollution sources, and get the ball rolling very quickly. Unfortunately, there's still a bit of a 9 to 5 kind of situation in some agencies.
Okay.
And it wasn't really until the phone calls came on the morning of the 12th, which is some days later. And the sad thing is, the tests that have been done so far by the Marine Institute and the report that came out in recent days, which is supposed to be the final report on this, although many of those people in the community are not happy with that, suggest that, and more than suggest, they believe that whatever entered the water probably went in on the 5th of August. So you kind of had a full week going before, I suppose, the testers, the inspectors got on site.
So it does highlight the need for a 24-hour response situation to something like this and any other kind of environmental catastrophe, for want of a better word. Is there any idea as to what has caused this? Because 42,000 fish, it's an extraordinary amount.
It is. And the kind of damage that was done to the fish is slightly odd. Their gills were kind of all damaged. Their eyes were swollen. There was lesions all over them. So very quickly it looked like it was something, chemically industrial, as opposed to, them being suffocated, or anything like that, or having sort of, a disease like a fungus or something. So it looked like something very potent, very caustic, or something like that had got in. And yet, all those agencies, lots of meetings, oodles and oodles of tests, and they're saying, we do not know what the substance was, what the cause was, what the source was, who done it, in other words.
That must be very disheartening for the community, because, they really did try and get action on it very quickly, didn't they?
They did, and they're not happy. This final report came out in the last few days, and with the only thing sort of emerging from the report is this was a good example of showing after the event how all these agencies can work together, A, and B, that Inland Fisheries Ireland are now going to have to do extra monitoring on this river going forward. But the local communities, the anglers, the environmentalists, the businesses that rely on those, the tourist interests, they're just not happy. They're not happy that that's the end of it. And they're also not happy that everything seems to be talking about what happens after the event. There's an awful lot of dissatisfaction about where was the prevention in this. One of the things that annoys them is that the reports come out and said, look, we checked, and the water quality was pretty okay. And so whatever this was must have been terribly fast acting and very, very potent. And they would say, well, actually our water quality is not okay. The Blackwater suffers an awful lot. It is a protected area, that stretch. And they're saying, what we accept as okay is not good enough. So our rivers, many, many rivers, and the Blackwater included, are under stress at the best of times. So if something does happen, something enters the water accidentally, recklessly, criminally, the river is not robust enough to sort of bounce back from that. The fish in it are just about getting by. They're not robust enough to bounce back from that. So this is just doesn't seem to be. I haven't seen a reaction to fish kill like this in a very long time, and I feel that certainly the anglers I've been speaking to do not want this to be the end of it. That final report isn't enough for them. They really do want to find out what happened. They say that the minister was keen to stress that it was an exhaustive investigation. They actually believe there was more that could have been done, and they're really not happy with the preventative side of fish kills, and they aren't happy with the response either.
Do we know about the health of the river now? Like, can the fish population be restored? What can happen now to well, for want of a better way of putting it, bring things back to normal on that particular stretch of river?
It could be years. It could be years. That 42,000, that figure, didn't include the YOY, the young of the year, which would be literally the baby fish, to put it in layperson's terms. So we don't know how many may have got away. We don't know how many were killed. So it really, the full impact will not be known maybe until next year or the year afterwards. And the interests down there say it could take years to recover.
And of course, as you're telling us, Caroline, the community in around the Munster Blackwater are still adamant that they need to find out what happened and more prevention measures put in place. Well, I have a feeling, Caroline, it's a watch this space on this particular one, but perhaps something that we need to be on alert about if we're involved in, fishing, or we enjoy walking on our rivers up and down the country, that they are being monitored more carefully.
Yeah, if you see anything at all, there isn't in Land Fisheries Ireland a 24-hour number. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a rapid reaction force out there, but you can make the call. You can call your local authority. You can call the Environmental Protection Agency. Call the guards. There was a report of potentially something happening on the riverbank on one of the days leading up to this, the discovery of the fish kill. Ultimately, it was found not to be related. But, these are our rivers. They belong to all of us, and they're in trouble. So if you spot anything at all, try and get the authorities involved.
Caroline O'Doherty, Climate and Science Correspondent with the Irish Times, thank you as always for joining us on Let's Go Green. We'll be back after the break.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
You're listening to Let's Go Green here on Midlands 103. Thank you for tuning in this evening, and I hope you are enjoying the programme so far. We're joined now by Tom Popple. Tom is the founder of the Climate Cocktail, which is taking place this week at Ballintubbert Gardens and House. Tom, you are very welcome to the programme.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for the invite.
So, Tom, climate and cocktails don't often go hand in hand. What exactly is it?
It's true. Well, it's the Climate Cocktail Club, and I guess, there's a double entendre in all of them, really. So the climate is the pressing issue that we're trying to address, so the climate emergency. But it's also the atmosphere that we try and create. So we're trying to create a welcoming and inclusive and accessible climate for people to get together. The cocktail piece is, I guess, the fun bit in many ways. So the events themselves, we do provide free cocktails and drinks and mocktails to the people coming. I guess that's a way to bring people in who may be deep greens or belligerent partners who are dragged along, to give them something enjoyable, but to try and create this climate, to have a soft social space for people to get involved in. But like a cocktail, if you imagine it, each one of those ingredients in their own right in your glass is probably pretty disgusting by itself. Well, unless you're like kind of shotting tequila through the eyeball or something. But when you mix them together, they create these delicious cocktails. And that's what we need to address the climate emergency and the nature emergency. We need to have all these different types of people and actors and organizations together and mix them in the right way. So that's what the cocktail bill is. And then the club it can often be quite lonely in this space, leading the charge as an individual within your family or community or within your business. So we provide a space for people to join and meet and build that network and catalyze action together. So the Climate Cocktail Club is a great night out in its own right. I can talk about that. But it's also this meeting place that is inclusive and accessible to get as many people on the journey as possible. And it's not just preaching to them. It's something that's fun, entertaining, and inspirational.
I want to hone in there on what you said about the loneliness piece, because I think it's it's an important point and one that doesn't get discussed nearly often enough. To be completely honest, I don't know if we are the only environmental programme on the airwaves in Ireland, but I don't know of another one. And I know each week you're looking to speak to people. Like, that enterprise in and of itself, it is very much a solo activity. And I think there's a fear, and in my own work, I speak with business people on a daily basis, and there's a fear of actually speaking out and sharing what you're doing in an environmentally friendly way because of the fear of being cancelled. And I think that's compounded by the fact that a lot of people are doing good and doing really important work, but they're doing it in isolation, and they don't necessarily feel like they're in a community of action in relation to tackling climate change.
Yeah, I hear you there completely. I think, for me to play that out a little bit, which is, if you were to imagine a perfect world of doing this well, taking action on climate or nature or your community isn't something that is separate. It's just second nature. It's something that is just part of doing something extremely well. And so when we can feel lonely because we might be the only ones that are prioritizing it or communicating it, but people approach this issue in their own ways. And so I always feel like my superpower slightly is being a geographer, and geography as a subject is probably the most important one that any kid should learn at school. And that's about bringing these different things together. So when we talk about building a movement and getting people on a journey to be more sustainable, it's actually about finding the thing that resonates with them most, how they can relate to it, what's their touch point, what's their on-ramp to taking action. And I'll give you a little example in that. So I was speaking to a director of sustainability who found it very hard to get their CFO over the line to fund a really ambitious nature project. And so I said, well, what's the CFO's relationship with nature? And they didn't know, they couldn't answer. He said he doesn't care. And so I had the opportunity to speak to that CFO. And I found out he loved fishing. And I used that as my hook, which is a perfect pun, into having a conversation about what that river really meant to him. And then I could layer in items around effluent waste and sewage exports into the river and the likes. And that became the conversation to bring them in on climate. Whilst that director of sustainability felt quite lonely, bashing their head against the wall the whole time, but they weren't speaking the language of the audience that they needed to engage with. So loneliness is critical when we're trying to take action, and the Climate Cocktail Club breaks down all those barriers because just mash everybody together. But in our own lives and our own jobs, the loneliness maybe is just in our heads slightly because we don't actually know how to talk to people about the issues that we care about. And they probably do. It's just a different language that you need to use.
When I meet people out and about, it's like the first thing that particularly Irish people, I think, will say is, I don't want to bore you, but I'm working on it. And I'm like, why would you assume that your area of interest is going to bore me? But we do. It's this kind of, I don't know, let's just apologise for existing kind of mindset that we have. So then, okay, I think you've made some really valid points. And this is all about getting people together, people who are working in similar areas in that they're working towards doing something about the climate crisis. So talk us through, because I know that tomorrow you're going to have a full day of activities. So what exactly is going to be taking place? Yeah,
absolutely. So I think just one little mini step back first to explain why the event was structured. We often put people and groups and organizations into different silos, and we talk about the government as this homogenous entity, and we talk about business as this homogenous entity, or professionals. And it's not actually true. Like, these organizations are made up of individual people that have their own lives and their own hopes, dreams and aspirations. And it's about connecting with those people on all levels and what their day job might be, but also what their personal interest could be. So the Climate Cocktail Club is something that's been running in the evening in Dublin, in the Sugar Club, and in Cork and Galway. But we really wanted to do something special, bring it out of that evening, almost kind of metropolitan mindset, and bring it into the center of Ireland, host it in the Midlands, and be able to bring inspirational speakers from around the world who can really engage audiences on these critical issues, but do it in a way that's human, that plays that link through the best of academia, the best of business, the best of activists, and the best of the creative industries, bringing them all together. So we have 70 speakers, well, almost 80 speakers now from across the world, across 5 different stages, 30 different sessions, 10 interactive sessions, live musicians, and over 500 people attending right here in the heart of the Midlands. And that's really important too, because the Midlands, particularly Laois, is going through its own transition. It's moving away from what would have been this kind of extractive environment, particularly from peat, but also agriculture, to find its new place. And we're bringing this energy into the region, and it's attracting attendees from all over Ireland.
And it is a fantastic idea. And like, over the course of now tomorrow, like, all of those who gather will have the opportunity to meet with each other, discover what they're all doing. And is there I suppose, an overarching aim of the cocktail club that, like, as in, is there a tangible result, or is it, and I don't mean to diminish it, but is it about building a community of activists around it?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's all about the action. So, I mean, one of the reasons why this was invented, I guess, in many ways, is because I got fed up of going to the classic corporate event hosted in a sterile hotel or venue with a bunch of people that I already knew, and the ones that I didn't often had paid to be there because they were sponsors or the likes. And it just wasn't a human-led event to really solve for this. So in this, I've tried to create an event and an environment that is the type of thing that I would like to go to, given it's my day job working in this space. So it is not just sitting there passively consuming content that people are talking to the stage. It's getting involved in those discussions. It's having your questions and thoughts and concerns heard. There's interactivity and connecting with people. So you work together as individuals, as teams. Something I've done that's quite fun, everyone, when they arrive with their sustainable lanyard, gets allocated a climate clan, and it's their opportunity and objective to go and find as many clan members as they possibly can, and to connect with them and agree an action and post that action publicly, and go through. And then again, we've got these immersive sessions. So there's world-class speakers doing keynotes. There's gnarly panel discussions, really getting to grips with what these issues are. But then you could take yourself away in the grounds of Ballintubbet with East Key Britain and go and connect with water in the fountain that's there, or go on an earth walk around the grounds with Sarah Blake. There's all of these different things going on. So people are going to leave with connections, energy, probably some spam photos and really crap selfies covered with people's thumbs and other kind of things. But also, new ideas and new ways of working that isn't just passive consumption of content. And we're trying to make it as sustainable as we possibly can within the resources and budget that we have. And Laois County Council have been a fantastic host and partner, have supported on that journey. And they're definitely leading, within the country around green events and festivals.
Talk to me about that. How do you make it, if not perfectly sustainable, but more sustainable as an event?
Yeah, and this is just kind of plays out across every aspect, not just events. So no event, no activity we ever do is fully sustainable. There's always going to be a residual impact that happens. So the things we do, so we don't print endless brochures and content that sits there on the seats that no one ever uses. We have lanyards, but they're reusable. They're bamboo made, and so we play those out. Something else we don't have as well, by the way, just is interesting. We don't have names on our lanyard cards, because when you go to conferences, people judge whether or not they want to talk to you based on what name and company and job title you have. So we don't do that. So it's completely unknown. We have water refill points from the well that's been hosted here in Ballintubbet for well over 1,000 years. So you're drinking ancient, hopefully still clean and healthy water. It's not been there for 1,000 years, I guess. We have a zero waste event. We have a food manifesto. So it's kind of as all our food offerings during the day are vegan or vegetarian. Our dinner on the evening, the 29th, is regenerative. We've partnered with Grow It Yourself down in Waterford from their regenerative farm. We're encouraging people to bring their refill coffee cups as well as their water bottles. And again, we'll be to see how it works, but trying to give out as many actual real mugs for washing and returning instead of compostable cups that don't ever get composted. And everything in between, public transport, we're trying to connect with the trains as much as we can, ride sharing. It's throughout. It's powered by renewable energy. We have these great solar energy battery packs that we'll be using on site as well, courtesy of Laois County Council. So as much as possible, reducing the footprint of transport, of hosting the event, and of powering the event and the consumption on site through food and drinks.
That it sounds, do you know what? It sounds very ambitious. But now that you've been there and you're doing this, and you like these other events around the country as well, like how doable is it as an events organizer to do things a little bit differently? Because I think sometimes people avoid trying to do it because they're afraid of it being incredibly complicated.
Yeah, it's actually relatively straightforward. The problem, I guess, the challenge we have is, we operate on a volunteer basis. This isn't a primary business. It's not here to make money. So our objective is to get enough funding to make the event as special as we possibly can, but also to make it affordable so people still come. So that's why the ticket prices are relatively low compared to what you would pay for in other events. So it is down to resourcing and finances, but it's just being smart. And it's realizing that you don't need to pump the audience full of single-use giveaways and printed out copies and the whole range of other things that go in between. It's just being supportive of the right decisions. So free water refill points instead of selling plastic bottles of water. That type of thing is just being smart around that too. The brochure is digital, so they scan the QR code, so they access it on their phone versus having a printed copy. But it can be hard, it can be difficult. But I would say if we're able to do it with a skeleton crew, that definitely any event organizer should be able to do it and run it in their own way.
Amazing. Now, you mentioned tickets and it's all kicking off in the morning. Is it too late to get a ticket for the day?
No, it's not too late. You can still buy online. So you can go onto the Climate Cocktail Club website, onto the events page, and you'll see the Climate Carnival hosted on there. You can pay on the door as well. That's absolutely possible too. So we have individual tickets to the event. There's also student discounts. There's also huge group discounts because we're trying to encourage companies to bring their teams down to the event. So rather than this is another thing about sustainability, not reinventing the wheel. All these organizations go and have their away days in all these different places, generating all these materials and all this transportation, when really you could have a focal point like this event and bring them all down, and you have that exposure and space to be able to engage your team. So there's great team and group discounts. So buy on the day or buy online.
Well, Tom Popple of the Climate Cocktail Club, which kicks off in Ballintubbert Garden and House tomorrow morning. I know there's some drinks reception tonight, but tomorrow morning, if you are available, hop onto their website and grab your ticket now. Tom, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for that, Aisling. Hope to see you there.
We'll be back after the break.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by AirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
You're listening to Let's Go Green here on Midlands 103. Just to go back to that item with Caroline O'Doherty on the fish kill in the Munster Blackwater River. And as Caroline pointed out, we all own the rivers. We need our rivers to stay healthy and a safe and diverse climate for much, and whether it's birds or fish or, all the bugs and insects and creatures that live alongside our rivers, we need them to stay safe and healthy. And as Caroline pointed out, if you do see something, if you're a walker who regularly walks up and down a local river or waterway, it is our responsibility to report any incidents, or if you're suspicious that for some reason you maybe spotted a dead fish or something floating in the water, there is a 24-hour call service. It is 0818 34 7424. So that's 0818 34 74 24, and that is a confidential phone line, so you can use it to report illegal fishing, fish kills, fish that you might have spotted in distress, water pollution, habitat destruction, or invasive species. And that is the Inland Fisheries Ireland phone line, 24 hours a day, 0818 34 74 24. And it is important that if you do see something, that you do indeed say something. But just I wanted to touch on a report that was released during the week from the Environmental Protection Agency around air quality. Now, you know, air quality is something that for most of us is intangible. Like, unless, for instance, you're perhaps like me and you're asthmatic and someone is smoking or vaping nearby and you can feel it short in your chest, or there's a particularly smoggy day in a city, we tend in this country not to suffer too badly, physically at least, in a very noticeable way most of the time. But our air quality is still monitored, and the report released on the 25th of September there has found that our across the extensive network of stations, that's 115, Ireland's air quality currently meets EU standards. But, and there is always a but, isn't there? We are set to fall short for air quality standards for 2030. Under the new Ambient Air Quality Directive. The new directive is part of a zero pollution action plan, and the idea behind it, the aim of it, is to reduce premature deaths from air pollution by 55% by 2030. And we're facing, according to the EPA, significant challenges in meeting these targets, with projected compliance levels of only 93% for fine particles. It sounds great, but at 93%, but it still has a significant impact. Of course, our primary sources of air pollution in Ireland are from solid fuel burning and traffic emissions. You guessed it, there was more cars on the roads. So it is having a major impact. The European Environment Agency estimates that in Ireland, more than 1,700 premature deaths annually are attributed to air pollution, with links to cardiovascular disease, respiratory diseases, dementia, type 2 diabetes, neonatal mortality, and vulnerable groups, particularly children and older adults, are in that cohort of premature deaths. 1,700 premature deaths can be attributed to air pollution in Ireland, according to the European Environment Agency. And that is an awfully high figure for a population as small as ours. So it is something that we do need to do better on and find alternatives to open fires and, you know, perhaps switching to hydrogen or electric vehicles. It's not easy, but we do need to make changes if we are going to have a healthier planet and indeed live longer, healthier lives. Well, if you want to find out more about that report, you can check out the Environmental Protection Agency's website. Air Quality in Ireland 2024 report. It is on their website if you'd like to read it in full. You can also go to airquality.ie for hourly updated information on air quality and a 3-day air quality forecast if you are interested to find out more. And I'm afraid that is all we have time for on this week's show. But just to remind you, of course, if you have missed part of this show or indeed any of our episodes previously, you can, of course, check out Let's Go Green with Aisling O'Rourke on your preferred podcast app. Just pop it into the search bar, or you can go to midlands103.com, click on the podcast button and listen to all of our episodes over the last couple of years if you'd like to check out the work that we've been doing here. And of course, if you'd like to suggest an item for the show or put somebody forward for the show, or even ask me to find out more about a question that has been burning for you and you haven't been able to find the answer to in relation to environmental issues, please do get in contact with me. Email me on hello@thecommunicationscoach.com, hello@thecommunicationscoach.ie. I really should know my own email address, shouldn't I? hello@thecommunicationscoach.ie, or go on to midlands103.com and you can contact the station there. I hope you enjoyed this week's show. We'll be back same time next week with another episode of Let's Go Green. But for now, have a great week, stay safe and stay tuned to Midlands 103.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.